A life-death drama being played out around St. Louis. Will the rampaging flood break through? A live report on Inside Edition straight ahead.
Zoom in. Good.
One of the best of the best.
He was probably one of the most incredible people I've ever met.
And when he didn't come home one day, they all thought he was the victim of a tragic accident. But Douglas Pugh had simply staged a disappearing act that backfired.
Let them think he's a hero. I don't want them to see what this man is.
What would you say if you could say something?
I'm sorry.
Just one question.
You gotta go live.
It is breaking communities and breaking hearts, the flooding in the Midwest.
Sometimes I feel like I'm homeless, but most of the time I try not to think about it.
Now, one family's story of pain and courage.
It's your whole lifetime right here in the attic, huh?
Yep.
Let's go.
Stand by.
Will St. Louis survive? Fast-moving waters are wreaking havoc, and there is fear over whether leaking propane tanks will explode. Today, Inside Edition's Matt Mahar brings us the latest from the flooded front line in Missouri.
2, 1. Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching Inside Edition today. You know, most Americans have been watching the Midwest floods all summer long, and it's very painful to see all that suffering. Right now, folks living in St. Louis are hoping and praying the water does not break through into their homes. Inside Edition's Matt Mahar is standing by in Missouri with the very latest. Matt.
Bill, I'm in historic St. Charles, Missouri, just a little bit north of downtown St. Louis. It's where the Missouri and the Mississippi rivers come together, and people have been sandbagging here for days, but now they've given up. The levee has broken in this neighborhood, and as you can see, it's already taken over a house and some cars. People all up and down the Mississippi are fearful tonight that something like this could happen in their neighborhood. Bill?
Thanks, Matt, and we will have more from Matt in the flood zone a little later on, including the story of one family's terrible ordeal. And also coming up today on Inside Edition, an elite American warrior disappears, leading to a bizarre mystery. We will have that story up next.
He broke down crying, and he said, it's a lie, everything's a lie. And I said, oh God, Doug, just don't tell me you're married. And he said, yes, I am. I have a wife and 2 kids.
Our next story is so full of bizarre twists, it's hard to believe, but it is true. When Doug Pugh disappeared in a river, his young wife and 2 sons thought he had drowned. But this elite Air Force man was far from dead. In fact, he was involved in an intense betrayal. Janet Tamara with our report.
Pararescue, an elite corps of skillfully trained specialists who stand out in any crowd.
And Doug Pugh was one of them, a member of an elite Air Force unit called Pararescue Men, or PJs.
Well, I certainly felt like he was a 10. He was one of the best of the best.
He was known for his daring rescues and was stationed here at Kirtland Air Force Base in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where he trained other PJs. At 27, he seemed to have it made, a promising future, a loving wife, and 2 sons. All of Doug's fellow PJs looked up to him, including Director of Tactics Frank Jardine.
He was probably one of the most incredible people I've ever met. Family-oriented, would do anything for anybody.
Aside from temporary duty away from home, the only thing that took Doug away from his family was exercise.
He's as close to a professional caliber athlete as anybody I'd ever met.
At 4:30 in the morning on May 12, 1987, Doug Pugh set out for his daily bike ride. By 7:30, when he hadn't shown up for work, his friends weren't too concerned because they'd all been working late hours. But by 10:30, when his wife Susie called looking for him, they all realized Doug had been missing for 6 hours. They organized a search party, and here at the Rio Bravo Bridge, they found something that terrified them all: skid marks and Doug's cycling shoe.
Okay, if you take a look at the retaining wall, you'll notice it's about 30 foot up. It was at that point that the dogs alerted, just beyond the middle light pole of the river, where it was presumed that Doug went over into the water.
Hundreds of servicemen searched the river as helicopters hovered overhead. All 35 of Doug's fellow PJs had an intensely painful mission. They were looking for one of their own.
We're talking, some of us working from 2 and 3 in the morning till midnight the next night and catching an hour or two of sleep and then going back out.
The searchers believe Doug's body was trapped somewhere along the muddy riverbed. Though his friends kept up the search, the Air Force officially called it off after 10 days. Pugh was declared dead, and his young widow Susie was left with 2 young sons and memories of a hero.
She was absolutely crushed.
But Doug Pugh's body had not been carried by the current of the Rio Grande, and it was not trapped in the silt. The truth, for his wife of 5 years, would turn out to be even more painful than death. Doug Pugh was very much alive and was here in San Diego weaving a new web of deceit with another woman.
But the night that we first went out, he told me he was in love with me.
Monica Joyce was the 30-year-old daughter of a prominent San Diego family when she met Doug Pugh in the fall of 1986, months before he faked his death. Doug told her he was single and in the military. Doug was actually in training at the San Diego Naval Base.
It was my understanding that he was involved in a job that kept him away all the time, that maybe he'd get to San Diego once in a while. And we were having a lot of fun, and I was just kidding, and I kind of said, quit your job and I'm yours. I didn't know he had a wife. I didn't know he had kids. I had no idea. I had no idea at the time the significance of those words.
After a courtship through letters and by phone, Doug suddenly showed up at Monica's house on May 15th, 1987, 3 days after he disappeared from Albuquerque.
It was really early. It was like 6 o'clock in the morning, and he had like a stubby beard. He had 87 cents in his pocket, and he had basically the clothes on his back.
Did that make you suspicious?
No, it kind of fit what he had told me.
Doug told Monica he'd quit his dangerous military job and for their protection needed to assume a new identity. It was Christopher Keith Riggs. And 4 months after his supposed death, Doug Pugh proposed to Monica. She was the happy bride. She had no idea, in fact, that she was the other woman and he was now a bigamist.
People that saw us said, you know, those two are really in love and they look so happy, and they're building this real good business for themselves.
When did his story start to fall apart?
I didn't suspect anything until 1988, the summer of '88.
The couple had been having money problems, and Doug had been bailing them out with unexplained cash. Monica felt he was lying to her, and then one day she caught him in a seemingly innocent lie. He told her he'd bought gas, but the tank was empty.
Right there, he knew and I knew. He was lying to me, that something was going on. And I said, Doug, you're lying, you're lying. He broke down crying, and he said, it's a lie, everything's a lie. And I said, oh God, Doug, just don't tell me you're married. And he said, yes, I am. I have a wife and 2 kids. And I faked my death, or they think I'm dead. I said, oh God, and I remember falling back down on the couch. And I said, what about the money? Where'd you get the money? And then he told me that he got it in a bank in Corpus Christi, Texas. And, you know, what do you say? What do you do?
Monica didn't ask questions about the money. The news of his first family overshadowed everything.
Once you knew he had a family, once you knew he'd faked his own death, why didn't you turn him in?
First of all, I loved him. I'm sure he had done these things. You can't even comprehend what he's done to begin with. Secondly, I think it was part of the denial.
Monica convinced herself Doug's first family was better off not knowing what Doug had done.
I was feeling all the guilt that he should have felt. I cried more for those boys that he left. And eventually I said, let them think he's a hero. I don't want them to see what this man is, you know. I didn't want them to have to see what I saw, surely.
And though Monica knew Doug had deserted 2 children, she still loved him and believed he loved her. She says they both wanted children, so in 1990, they had a little boy. Within months, she was pregnant again. But Doug Pugh was now involved with another woman who was also pregnant by him. After the birth of her second son, Monica realized it was time to turn Doug in.
I was really, really nervous, but I was also really excited because it was all going to be over. Everything was going to be over. Doug could quit running, and his family would have him back.
Within a week, Doug had been arrested and charged with desertion and bigamy and was being held at March Air Force Base in California.
Do you have anything to say, Doug?
Sorry, not before the trial.
Can you tell me why you did it?
Can't answer any questions.
You couldn't have hurt us anymore if you'd have shot us, if we'd have been gut shot.
The timing couldn't have been worse for his first wife, Susie, who was about to marry again. She refused to see him, but his mother and 3 sisters, who for 5 years had mourned his loss, were thrilled at his reappearance.
I was ecstatic.
His sister Jamie says she was coming to terms with abuse she says she suffered at the hands of her father when she was a child. She says Doug told her he was having similar memories.
He didn't know what to do. He was having memories or flashbacks he didn't know at the time, and he just thought he was going nuts. And he needed some way out. He was afraid of abusing the boys.
At his court-martial, a psychiatrist backed up Doug's story. Then Pugh took the stand and compared himself to Huck Finn. He described his growing desire to abuse his sons as he grappled with his own childhood. His father was in the courtroom and denies ever abusing his children. Pugh was found guilty of bigamy and desertion. He was sentenced to 18 months. We caught up with him at his November court-martial.
What would you say if you could say something?
I'm sorry, and that I hope to make it all better.
And you said you wanted to have a relationship with your children?
No, you can't be asking questions, so you gotta keep walking.
Yes, very much so.
But no sooner had Doug begun serving time when new charges were brought against him for a bank robbery in Corpus Christi, Texas, the one Monica claims he confessed to her. And then Doug pulled another disappearing act. On Memorial Day weekend, he escaped from his cell at March Air Force Base.
Doug Pugh hid out in Southern California wilderness, using his military training to survive. But this time, he was a hunted fugitive, and after 2 weeks, he turned himself in.
Who's that? Daddy.
Monica's sons are still too young to understand what happened to their father, but Susie's children, pictured in this month's Red Book, are now 9 and 10. Susie has not commented on her former husband at all. Her mother told Inside Edition that Susie wants to forget Doug Pugh and does not want her sons to see their father.
My kids, they'll definitely know the truth. They'll know that Dad had some problems, serious problems, and that maybe he's getting the help that he needs.
Those who know him say Doug Pugh is many things: hero, husband, father, deserter, bigamist, liar. But for once, there's no disputing where he is and what he is. At Camp Pendleton, imprisoned by the military.
And Pugh is currently awaiting trial on charges of desertion, escape, and bank robbery. If it were against the law, he'd also be charged with breaking hearts. Coming next as we continue, we'll go back to the flood zone. Will St. Louis be spared?
Your house is just down here.
Yeah.
And this is the first time that you're able to come back.
Yep.
How do you feel about that?
Excited. I want to go in and see what it was like.
There has been no summer in much of the Midwest. All there has been is rain and more rain. And all the flooding has brought America together as millions of dollars are being donated to help the flood victims. But as Craig Rivera reports, money cannot take away one family's pain.
For weeks now, we've seen the reports. Torrents of rain falling in biblical proportions. The rains have stopped for now, but in states like Missouri, where the rivers that drain nearly a quarter of the continental United States continue to crest at record levels, homes and businesses are still threatened. Normally, this would be the season for mowing lawns and backyard barbecues. But this year, the people of the Show Me State are being shown no mercy. And as the flooded tributaries of America's heartland continue to rise, the victims of this 500-year flood wonder how they will survive. The flood has taken a toll on over 50,000 families across the Midwest.
It's getting long now, and, you know, we're getting a little antsy and a little uptight.
In St. Louis, Missouri, Melba Jean Foll and her family have been living in the cramped quarters of this temporary Red Cross shelter for the past 3 weeks. And while the Red Cross provides for all of their basic needs, including medical care for Melba's chronic bronchial asthma, the Foll family, especially her daughters, are suffering from the stress of living in these conditions.
You hear about earthquakes and hurricanes and stuff like that and what people go through, but, you know, it comes right then and then you can clean it up right after, you know. Like with the flood, it's a long process, you know. You have to wait and wait and wait.
Sometimes I feel like I'm homeless, but most of the time I try not to think about it.
When the Fole family abandoned their home 3 weeks ago, they had no idea the floodwaters would reach these historic heights, so they removed what they could, leaving many of their cherished belongings behind.
What kinds of things are up there, like your
Well, all the pictures and all the baby pictures from the kids, everything that was downstairs, every drawer, everything.
Melba Jean can't strain herself because of her health. Her husband Percy works all day and in his spare time searches for another home for his family. For those reasons, the Foles have not been able to return to their flooded home to retrieve their belongings.
Mindy, if you could get anything back from your house, what would you get?
My school uniforms to go to school and some of my books.
Melody, what would you get?
I have some clothes in there and my bears, my stuffed animals.
What do your bears mean to you?
Well, like, when I'm sad, I always like to hold them, and that just makes me feel better if, like, my mom or dad's not here. That's basically what I would want to get.
We decided to pitch in and help the Fole family get to their house in an attempt to get at least some of their belongings. With Melba Jean too sick to come along, I escorted the girls back to their ravaged neighborhood.
Hi, my name is Marty Werman.
Marty, Craig, this is Melody.
After recruiting some help from the Melville Fire Department Rescue Squad, we were on our way.
So your house is just down here,
Yeah.
and this is the first time that you're able to come back.
Yep.
How do you feel about that?
Excited I want to go in and see what it looks like.
What do you think, Mindy? Is it scary for you?
Feels pretty weird.
Mindy and Melody's neighborhood is like many others flooded by the deluge. Not located on any major river, their house is a block from a tiny tributary, the Merrimack River, now completely flooded by waters backed up from the swollen Mississippi. Firefighter Marty Werman cites the depth as we glide over the streets where the girls normally play.
Right now we're on Telegraph Road, and I would say we're probably about 10, 12 foot of water.
My depth finder shows 12 feet below us is where the road normally is.
When we arrived at the Fole home, the girls noticed their garage had floated away from their house. We were able to step from the rescue boat directly onto the roof of their home. From there, we climbed through a window to inspect what was left of their belongings.
This is where you put everything, huh?
Yep.
Well, it looks like it's pretty dry for now.
For now.
Well, let's take a look around.
Okay.
The attic was hot and musty, filled with whatever mementos and personal belongings the family could gather before they had to abandon their home. On the ground floor, water was nearly to the ceiling, waiting to claim everything that did not fit up the narrow stairway.
It's your whole lifetime right here in the attic, huh?
Yep.
After a frantic search, the girls were able to find almost everything they were looking for. Photo albums, expensive prescription medicine needed by their mom, even Mindy's school uniform.
That's what you're looking for. They're brand new.
And finally, watching the girls transform was a happy yet melancholy moment as the rescue workers put it all in perspective.
And this family was lucky that we got to come out and get their stuff. But there's probably been some that are a month and a half since they've been able to check on their belongings.
Yeah. So neat. This is stuff that I really treasured. I didn't want to get to go under.
I got tapes.
I mean, the furniture, I can get another bed. I can't replace this stuff.
It's a start, isn't it?
Yes, a real start.
Well, there is some good news. The Foles have now found a new place to live until they determine if they can return to their home. And just in time, too, because the shelter they were in had to be evacuated as another levee broke over the weekend. And joining us now once again from Missouri is Matt Mahar. And Matt, you lived in the area for 12 years. What is the mood right now?
Growing disbelief, Bill. I covered 3 floods here. This time, everybody knows somebody who's been affected by it. There's somebody who's lost their business. The vast majority of the people are still, of course, safe, but it's just really disbelief. My wife and I used to picnic near here. That area looks like a lake now, what used to be a nice park ground. In South St. Louis right now, there are propane tanks that have broken free from their foundation, bobbing in a neighborhood, causing great concern there. As the water continues to rise south of St. Louis, there's bound to be horrible stories there tonight. We'll be there, and we'll let you know about them tomorrow.
Okay, Matt, thanks very much. And Inside Edition will continue, as Matt said, our coverage from the flood zone until the danger subsides. And if you would like to help flood victims, you can call the American Red Cross. Their number is 1-800-842-2200. That is 1-800-842-2200. And we will be right back. And here's what's upcoming on Inside Edition.
It was just basically unbelievable that this would happen.
These parents had to become outlaws to keep their adopted daughter. Would you go underground to protect the child you love? Inside Edition investigates a battle that tore a family apart.
A compelling story next time, and that is it for us today. We hope you have enjoyed Inside Edition. I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks again for watching us. We'll see you tomorrow.